Fatiha. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد سيدنا الأولين والآخرين. مدد يا رسول مدد يا سادة أصحاب رسول مدد يا مشايخنا دستور مولانا شاء الله فاز لا شاء محمد مدد طريقتنا الصحبة والخير في الجميع. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل استهزئوا إن الله مخرج ما كنتم تحذرون. صدق الله العظيم. Şimdi Allah Azze ve Celle buyuruyor, alay ediyorlar. Allah Azze ve Celle'ye davet edenlerle çoğu zaman alay ederler, beğenmezler.
Allah Almighty says that they mock those who invite them to Allah Almighty. They make fun of them who invite them to Allah Almighty most of the times.
Zannederler ki kendileri akıllı, kendiler mükemmel insanlar.
Those who mock the believers, those who make fun of those who invite to the way of Allah Almighty, think of themselves to be better than others. They consider themselves to be the best.
Allah yolunda olanlar ahmaktır.
And they consider those who follow the way of Allah Almighty as idiots.
Akılsızdır, onlara alay ederler.
And they consider those who follow the way of Allah Almighty as mindless people, and thus they ridicule and make fun of those who follow the way of Allah Almighty.
Alay edecek, sonra ne gibi hata düştüklerini daha sonra.
But they will later realize the mistake in making fun of those who believe in Allah Almighty.
Sizden çıkaracağım diyor.
And Allah Almighty says, I will confront them with what they make fun of, and I will confront them with that which they mock.
Yani o alay ettiklerinizi boş olduğunu size ders olsun diyerek Allah Azze ve Celle onu size karşınıza çıkaracak.
Allah Almighty will teach them a lesson and will confront them with what they used to mock, with what they used to ridicule.
O ahirette de olur, dünyada da olur.
And this may happen in the hereafter, but it may also happen in this world already.
Dünyada bir şeyi doğru zannedip de başkalarına yanlış diye bakan insan çoğu zaman hata kendisinde olur.
Those who consider themselves to be superior to others and those who consider others inferior and as wrong, they are the very ones who are mistaken.
Kendi rezil olur en sonunda.
And those who are on the wrong way and consider themselves to be correct and consider themselves to be better than others will be ruining themselves and will end up in a ruinous state.
Allah yolunda olanlarla alay edenler, onlara zulmedenler dünyada da ahirete gitmeden önce de onların yaptıklarına pişman olur.
Those who ridicule and mock and make fun of those who follow the way of Allah Almighty will already in this world be in a state that they will regret what they have done.
Olsalar iyi olur. Pişman olmasalar o vakit kötü olur.
And it is better for them to regret and repent and ask Allah Almighty for forgiveness for having mocked those who believe in Allah Almighty.
Pişman olup da tövbe istiğfar edince Allah affeder.
If they repent and ask Allah Almighty for forgiveness for their mockery, then they will find Allah Almighty to be forgiving.
Onu devam ettirirse yapar, dünyada da rezil olur, ahirette de rezil olur.
However, if they persist in their mockery and if they continue to ridicule the believers, then they will be in a ruinous state both in this world as well as in the hereafter.
Allah muhakkak herkesin hesabını verir.
Without any doubt, Allah Almighty will hold everyone accountable.
Herkes onun kudreti elindedir. Allah
And everyone and everything is within the divine hands of power of Allah Almighty.
Azze ve Celle merhametlidir.
Allah Almighty is merciful.
Bu yapılan şeylere tövbe ederse o affeder.
And if they ask Allah Almighty for forgiveness for their mockery and for having ridiculed the believers, then Allah Almighty will forgive them.
Yok, tövbe etmezse o vakit dünyada da rezil oluyor, ahirette de büyük bir kayba uğruyor.
However, if they do not repent, they will ruin themselves in this world and they will experience a great loss and they will be the losers in the hereafter.
Yani bu dikkat etmek lazım.
This is important to pay attention to.
İnsanlar kendilerine bir şey verildi mi zannediyor ki dünya kendisinindir.
Whenever people are given something, they think that they hold the entire world in their hands,
Başkası yaramaz, başkası
and then they despise others and then they look down onto others
itibarsızdır.
and they do not consider anyone to be worthy of being respected and they consider others as being useless.
Alay etmeye müstahaktır.
And then they consider others worthy to ridicule them, to make fun of them.
O dikkat etmek lazım.
But this is a behavior one must avoid and be very careful about.
Herkes hata yapar.
Everyone can commit a mistake.
Herkes olmayan şeyleri söyleyebilir.
And anyone can say something that should not have been said.
Ama ondan sonra tövbe istiğfar ederse muhakkak Allah Azze ve Celle affeder.
But there's still the opportunity to repent and ask Allah Almighty for forgiveness. And if you repent, Allah Almighty will forgive.
Yani bu çok mühimdir.
This is very important.
Allah yolunda olanları çok alay ettiler.
They made fun of those who follow the way of Allah Almighty a lot.
Peygamberlerden,
They ridiculed the prophets, peace be upon them.
onların ümmetiyle, onlara tabi olanlardan
They ridiculed the nations of the prophets, and they ridiculed those who followed them.
küfür, kafirler, imansızlar çok alay ettiler.
The disbelievers mocked the believers a lot.
Çok güldüler. İşte tarih kitaplarında, Kur'an-ı Azimüşşan'da
This is stated in the books of history. This is stated and described in the Holy Quran. How the believers made fun, how the disbelievers made fun of the believers.
onların vaziyetini anlatıyor.
And in the Holy Quran, Allah Almighty describes the state of the disbelievers and how they ended up because of their mockery.
Nasıl helak olduklarını anlatıyor.
Allah Almighty describes how they were ruined because of their mockery.
Yani hiçbir alay etip de bir kazanç sağlayan bir şey olmadı.
There is no occasion that those who mock the believers ended up obtaining something.
Alay edip de hakka karşı gelenler daima hüsranla
Those who mocked the believers, those who opposed the truth, were always in a state of loss.
vardılar. Hiçbir şey kazanmadan
And they never gained something.
öteki dünyaya gittiler.
And they left this world and went on to the next world empty-handed without anything.
Allah muhafaza etsin.
May Allah Almighty protect us from such a state.
Allah muhafaza etsin.
May Allah Almighty protect us.
Allah, çünkü bu zamanda çocukları, gençleri, yaşlıları
It is a difficult time because they try to influence children, youngsters, elderly.
hepsini kandırıyorlar.
They deceive everyone.
Onun için Allah muhafaza etsin.
Therefore, may Allah Almighty protect us.
Hepimizi, onları da hepimizi. Çünkü
May Allah Almighty protect us all, and may Allah Almighty protect them,
tehlikeli vaziyet olur.
because it's a very dangerous state to be in.
Ve minallahu tevfik. El Fatiha.